You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Welcome to the Hot Options Report, your premier source for insight into the fast-moving options market. Each day, we'll track down the products that are dominating the options chains and impacting your trading account, from Nvidia to VIX, and everything in between. If it's lighting up the options tape, then you'll find it on the Hot Options Report.
All right, everybody, let's get down to business with your final Hot Options Report coming at you for the week on Friday here, February 13th. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the network upon which all of you folks are binging these days. And if you're not checking out the Pro, man, you are missing out next week, because coming up, you folks have asked for it ever since we did the last one. When are you going to do another Vol Deathmatch? That was awesome. Well, it's coming back on Tuesday. Vol Deathmatch 2.0. The Flowmaster versus Mr. Scott Nations. 2 men enter, 1 man will leave. We have a potentially special guest referee coming in. All sorts of fun. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro. Get in there by Tuesday if you want to kick the tires and light the fires and participate. Thumbs up, thumbs down, like a Roman emperor of old. Going to be a good time, if I do say so myself. Wear your old clothes, might get spattered with some blood, but it's all in the name of a good cause, which is Vol Deathmatch. And as we kick off the show out here today, by the way, all this data coming at you courtesy of our friends over there at thehotoptionsreport.com. That's where you go to find all of this data we're talking about today and a whole bunch more. Thehotoptionsreport.com is the place to go as we go on out and see, was it a banger day out there on the street today? And the answer was yes. You know, whenever we have this kind of whipsaw action in the big markets, it usually translates into a fair amount of options volume. And that's pretty much what we saw again today. Listeners, cost you 709,000 contracts to break into the top 10 today. That gets you to our old pal, Mr. Softy. Mr. Softy has been struggling of late, and they had a wild ride today. Sold off as low as 398, as high as a little bit north of 405. Ended up settling out 401.32, off 52 cents on the day. And again, they've been struggling to find some green, off over 15% now year to date, putting up 709,000 contracts for the number 10 spot on our countdown today, listeners. And the hot option on a pretty wild day in Mr. Softy, 64, almost 65,000 of the 405s. Average price for those, listeners, 77 cents. So once again, they obviously went out worthless. So selling was the right answer if you wanted to ride them through the close. But you had some moments, you had some brief moments in the sun. The stock got as high as 405.54, which still wouldn't have broken even on those, but it would have looked a lot better on that. So if you bought those, listeners, that's a bit of a rough one. As we keep climbing to number 9, all eyes were on this name this week on the earnings front, listeners, because in addition to good old MSTR, this is the other name a lot of people look to for the health of the crypto market. Yep, it's Coinbase. Popping hard today, so having a nice run out there today. Up $23.23, or about 16.5%, to close at 164.20. 32 listeners, putting up 823,000 contracts for the number 9 spot out there today. And what was your hot option on a pretty hot day in Coinbase? We're seeing more action in those 310 puts, actually. Talked about these yesterday, kind of a weird choice. Obviously, $140+ in the money put. Going up for an average price of 143, trading again today 35,000 times. Saw these yesterday as well. It's kind of a bit of a weird in the money play, but we see these every now and then. If you want a more relevant strike that's going away today, it was 32,000 of the 160 calls. Again, expiring today. Average price for these, 264. And once again, if you rode these through the close and you bought them, you're looking pretty good out there, listeners. All right, and coming in at number 8 on our countdown today, it is Palantir. Palantir closing green today, listeners, having an interesting run out there, selling off as low as 126 and about a quarter, as high as 133.5, closing 131.41 today, listeners, up $2.24, putting up 834,000 contracts for the number 8 spot on our countdown today, and the hot option on a pretty hot day in Palantir, 31, almost 32,000 of the 130 puts. Average price for these, 64 cents. This was an opening trade, as most of ours are, and it looked like paper might have been buying these, in which case, if you rode these through the close, not a great trade. If you sold them, you had to sweat a little bit, but you had a smile on your face at the end of the day. As we keep climbing to number 7, the other half of the crypto dynamo, its strategy, rallying $10.88 today, closing at 133.88, up nearly 9%. So a wild day on the crypto front today, listeners, putting up 853,000 contracts. For the number 7 spot, the hot option in the monster today, almost 31,000 of the 134 calls. Now you might say, oh, if you bought those, you swung and you missed. But these were for an average price of $5.21. But luckily for you, if you bought these, listeners, you went out a week. You got an extra week on these. So you have until regular February expiration. Can we threaten the 134 strike by the end of the week? Well, we closed pretty darn close to it, listeners. And the high was 135.25 today. So right now you're looking pretty good. But then again, anything could happen. We'll keep an eye on the monster, see where it goes next week as we keep climbing. Listeners, time for us to go to the number 6 spot on our countdown. This is the fruit company. Kind of a wild couple of days in the fruit company. It's been a wild year, really, so far. Kicked off the year firmly in the red, had a great earnings, rally ho, and then lately, again this week, they are coming for it. Worst day since, well, yesterday, I believe they're referring to, was the worst day since the big sell-off in April of last year. We've got delays for Siri, FTC, IRE, all that weighing on the stock again today, selling off another $5.95, or about 2.25% to close 255.78, putting up 1.25 million contracts for the number 6 spot, the hot option on a hot day in the fruit company, 97,000 of the 255 puts. Go figure exactly where we went out, listeners. Average price for these, about 19 cents, listeners. So once again, if you bought these for that average price, not a great trade, but then again, didn't lose much. The low was 255.45, so we never really broke through that strike. So these never really had a chance if you bought them, but then again, didn't lose much if that was the case. And if you sold them, you didn't sell them for much, but you ended up working out well. As we keep climbing to the number 5 spot today, listeners, keeping it in the A-Tech names, troubled A-Tech names. This is Amazon, selling off again today, 81 cents to close at 198.79. Putting up 1.36 million contracts for the number 5 spot out there today, the hot option in the Amazonians. 120,000 of the par calls, the 200 calls expiring today. Average price for these, 63 cents. You might say, well, if you rode them through the close, not a great trade. And that is true, but the high intra-session was 201.16. So these were looking pretty good. If you bought them, you had an opportunity to get out for a profit. If you rode them through the end of the day, though, not a great trade. As we keep climbing to the number 4 spot. Looks like we got a couple of div plays sneaking in there today, including number 4. This is UPS. Yes, that UPS. Closing 119 and a quarter, up $1.17 or about 1%. So decent little move for UPS, putting up 1.5 million contracts, and pretty much all of that coming in a div play, including 225,000 of the 110 calls for the number 1 spot out there in UPS today. So again, we're not going to spend too much time on the div plays. Listeners, let's keep climbing to the number 3 spot. Again, another div play. So not going to spend too much time on this one either. This is good old Chevron, ticker symbol CVX, trading today 183.74, up $1.34, 0.75%, putting up 1.65 million contracts to the number 3 spot, again going ex-div. And once again, it's in the money calls, the signature trade of a div play. Nearly 500,000 of these, 496,000 of the 170. So you could see how these div plays get a little bit distortive on the volume front and how they break into our top 10 all the way at number 4 and number 3. They're putting up 500,000 contracts at a clip in some of these plays. So interesting, perhaps not. Distortive, definitely. Let's keep climbing to the number 2 spot, listeners. It's Tesla. Tesla having a rare day where they closed almost unched, up about $0.33, closing at 417.44. Intraday, a much wilder tale, a low of a little bit below 411, a high of 424. So wild stuff, putting up 2.78 million contracts for the number 2 spot in our countdown today, the hot option. 190,000 of the Tesla appropriate 420 calls. Average price for these, $1.31. We did get above these, so they were looking pretty good if you bought them. Looks like paper was selling these, though, in which case they were sweating. Hopefully they rode them through the close, in which case it worked out pretty well for them. Did it work out well for our number 1 on our countdown today, listeners? The answer was no. Nvidia coming back to earth a little bit today, selling off $4.16 or 2.25% to close 182.78, listeners, after getting all the way up to 193 yesterday, coming back to earth quite a bit, putting up 3.07 million contracts for the number 1 spot in our countdown today. This also puts Nvidia off a little over $6 or about 3.25% so far for the year. And the hot option on a pretty hot day in Nvidia volume wise, nearly 250,000 of the 185 calls. You can see why Nvidia is number 1. 250,000 just on one strike. That's almost index volume. The average price for these, 55 cents, listeners. And it looks like paper might have been selling these. That obviously was the right direction in hindsight. If you rode them through the close, you pocketed a nice, clean 55 cents. That is going to do it for your hot options report for Friday, February 13th. Make sure you're checking out our friends over there at thehotoptionsreport.com. They have all this data and a whole bunch more we don't have time to get to on the show. And of course, join us on Tuesday over there at theoptionsinsider.com/pro. You're not going to want to miss this one. Vol Deathmatch 2.0. Be there or be square. Have a great holiday weekend. See you here for the Vol Deathmatch. And of course, after the closing bell on Tuesday, another episode of the Hot Options Report. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.